How about 25 minutes of this gun show?
Trying to build a prison. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another great episode of the Thomas Free Me Show. Once again, I thank you for tuning in. Before you start the show, please, I ask that you like, share, subscribe, do all of that stuff, as it is the utmost importance to the growth of my show and getting my word out there. Please make sure to visit www.cominghomecoalition.com, which is a 501c3 nonprofit that has been founded by me for the people, for the community, and I am trying to stay privately funded so that it allows me to work within the community the way that I need to work. So please make sure to visit that, and there's all kinds of links and ways that you can subscribe, donate, and make sure to please visit what we're doing here in Pasco County called Project Inside Out with Shady Hills Mission Chapel. So please visit www.cominghomecoalition.com. Please make sure to like, share, subscribe, and please make sure to check out my book on Amazon, The Power of a Positive Mindset, for those who have an incarcerated loved one who just needs to change their mindset. You can find that on Amazon by simply just Googling Thomas Freeman. Thank you, and please enjoy the show.
I love outside weather. You know what I'm saying? And I think what I could do otherwise is I could do, we live in Florida, so I could do outside type workouts. You know what I'm saying? Jailhouse type stuff where when we didn't have weights and stuff like that, we had to figure it out, with the bare minimum. And you still had dudes in there that were just ripped up, man.
And that's what everybody wants to know. Everybody wants to know these prison workouts, man, because they know that it's cheap. They see these prisoners where they're ripped up and all of this stuff. The biggest issue that people don't understand is the counting calories. People do not know how to count calories. And I'm not just talking about counting the calories that you're eating and going and looking at the labels. But what true counting calories is knowing your expenditure versus your intake. Like, you have to know that balance. You have to know ballpark. I mean, it doesn't have to be precise unless you're looking for a precise weight or structure or whatever. But as long as you know in a ballpark how many calories you're burning a day, you have to know how many calories you're burning a day in order to know how many calories you're taking in. You know what I mean? You have to know that whole structure. So it's when I say this to people, they're like, "Oh, well, I count calories, but okay, well, how many calories do you think you're burning a day?" "Oh, I have no idea." Well, that's the whole other half of it. You're only doing half of it. You have to know how many calories you're burning. So for me, I don't exercise that much, right? I don't burn that many calories through the day because a lot of my work entails me sitting at the desk, computer work, studio work, things of that nature, driving around. So I'm not burning a lot of calories. So I know that I cannot take in a lot of calories. So it's just understanding what your daily routine is and what you can and can't take in on that. And I mean, it's science. It's physically impossible for you to gain weight if you're burning more calories than what you're bringing in.
Right. People don't understand that. And really it's really pretty easy to figure it out because it's every single formula that I've seen to figure out calories, daily intake, is based on your weight. So as long as you know your weight, it's just a multiplication to figure out how many calories you need every day. And then you go into, then the next thing is okay, so what kind of exercises are you doing, right? And then you say, okay, well, most likely this is for average people. So say an hour of running is probably 300 calories, right? But you're overweight by 60 pounds. So you can almost guarantee that you're going to probably be on the higher end of that, if not higher than that, right? So what it really comes down to, and what people don't understand, is like you said, it doesn't have to be that exact. right? What does have to be exact is you getting in there and putting effort into it. You know, you're going to know you're doing the right thing because you're going to see it in the mirror. You're going to feel it in your physical body. And not only that, but you'll probably get other people to start noticing as well. You know what I mean? That you're starting to look better. You know what I'm saying? You're for yourself. You know, your energy levels going up. You know, you might even start to feel a little bit more hungry during the day. That's a good thing. That means that your metabolism is up. That means
It's
whatever it
starting to
is that you're
burn.
doing, right? So that's when you start. That's when you start to figure out other things too. So you say, okay, well now, and it depends on what you're trying to do. If you're trying to lose weight, then you want to feel hungry during the day. You know, you don't want to keep yourself hungry because you want to keep that metabolism high. So those are the type of programs where they have you eat every 2 hours. That's, for me, is best for weight loss, especially if you have any type of weight training involved. Oh boy. And for me, weight loss, the best thing for that when it comes to cardio is high intensity interval training. You know what I mean? Because you can get a lot done in a little bit of time. You know, once you get to a pretty good physical um, place, wherever you want to be, you know, you're going to find that you're not going to have to actually do that much cardio as long as your diet's good, as long as you're still hitting the gym. You're still going to have to probably do some, you know, but not nearly as much as you're going to have to do starting out if you're overweight. So,
One of the best books that I read. Remember, I told you that there was an individual that was in prison that I was incarcerated with that was getting, he was getting master's degrees and all
mm-hmm,
kinds of different fields. And one of
right.
those fields was sports and nutrition. And
Mm-hmm.
then what would end up happening is some heroin would hit the compound and he would sell all his books for $20, $30, $40. One of the best books I got was a sports and nutrition book, and I still got it in there on the shelf. And it broke all of this stuff down to a science, right? And it really broke down how many calories an individual burns each day according to so many different particular activities. You know what
Right.
I mean? So once you understand that structure, right? Once you understand that structure and you can say within a ballpark, your daily activities, you're burning maybe 1,500 to 2,000 calories. Like you don't burn that many calories. You know what
You
I
actually
mean?
do. You actually do.
Well, you don't. You don't. It's a lot easier to take in a multitude of calories than it is to burn it. You can take in 15,000 calories easy, but you cannot burn those 15,000 calories easy, right? So it's understanding that. It's understanding that it's a lot easier to take calories in than it is to burn calories. So
Oh, of course. Of
that's what I
course.
mean. That's what I mean by you don't burn that many calories. So it's understanding that within a hard day's labor, right? You're maybe going to burn anywhere from 5 to 6,000 calories, and that's maybe a construction worker that's outside in the sun all day, right? Now, when you get into the athletics and the sports of it, and you can really kind of gear exercises and things, then yeah, you can start burning a lot more calories. So it's understanding how many calories you're burning a day. But for the normal everyday working person, we're only burning maybe 1,500 calories. Me, I'm probably maybe only burning 1,000 on a day in the office, just sitting here, not doing too much, you know and it's knowing that just a certain amount of breathing and sleeping burns calories, and just sitting around doing absolutely nothing, you burn about 500 calories, right? So it's just knowing again how many calories that you're burning through the day and limiting that food, and like you say, we're building a structure within that bubble. So if you want to speed your metabolism up, then yeah, you're going to break these meals down, like you say, into 6 small meals. And if you factored in, okay, you know what, I can really only take in about 2,500 calories a day, then you're like you said earlier, multiplication. 6 meals, you're taking each meal's got to be 400 calories. Or you can take them six and make three, a large portion of the calories, and then 3 of those meals just like small little snacks, like a fruit or something in between. Get away from the scale. Like the story that you were talking about, that scale is a deceiver. You got to understand that scale only gives you weight. It doesn't decipher what that weight is. It just gives you a weight of what your body is. So what a lot of people where a lot of people get discouraged at is they'll hit the gym to burn off this fat, and they start exercising. Well, muscle weighs more than fat. So as you're moving and you're doing more exercises, you're actually building muscle, which is putting weight on you.
That's exactly what I was telling a friend of mine this morning, because she's like, oh, I feel better, and I feel like I look better, but the scale isn't moving. And I'm like, no. I was like, the scale is a good tool if you know how to use it, right? The scale is not something that you put all of your, it's like putting all the eggs in one basket. You don't do that with the scale. And the reason why is because the scale can be very deceptive for one of the reasons you just described, right? But here's the other thing. And the best way to use a scale, in my opinion, is to keep you on task. But the reason why you're worrying about what it says is because you're tracking your weight, right? That's all you're doing. You're tracking your weight, right? The reason why you're tracking your weight is because it's going to let you know, okay, well, I lost 5 or 6 pounds. Did I lose that because I didn't get in enough food? Did I lose that because I didn't get in enough water? Did I lose that because I did more exercise than I normally do? There's all kinds of things to it. Not only that, but another mistake people make is that they'll weigh themselves at different times of the day, and they're not consistent with the times that they weigh themselves, which is folly also. You should always weigh yourself at the same time, because if you weigh yourself in the morning, you're going to find that you're going to weigh more at night. Why? Because you've done all your eating, and most of your calories are burnt while you're sleeping. Most people don't realize that.
And weigh yourself with the same thing. Just put on some underwear, some boxers, and wear that the whole time,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Don't have socks on one day and the next day you don't, and you have sweatpants on one day. You know what I mean? Just weigh yourself naked if that's a possibility. But no, absolutely. See, and that's 100%. And that goes into, again, what is your client looking for? If your client is coming and they're like, well, I want to put on weight, I want to bulk up. So the goal is weight, and that's where that scale is going to come into effect. But if a client comes and they're like, I want to burn fat, well, the scale's not going to determine that, and so then you're really kind of turning into a calipers. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And what that does is actually measure your body fat, so that you can actually then see that you're burning body fat. The scale's not going to determine that. But when you got these calipers and you're doing these measurements, you can actually see that you're losing body fat. And then another thing that a lot of people don't know, one of the biggest reasons why they even get into weight loss training is because they look at their gut and they don't like how their gut looks, right? Mm-hmm. So they start to see their gut is starting to blow out. But what they don't understand is that your gut is the core of your body, right? The core of your body is the balance. So that is where most of your weight is going to go.
It's going to go there first, and it's going to leave there last.
And it's going to leave there last. So while you're working out and you're losing weight, you're not looking at all the other places where that weight loss comes first. You're constantly looking at your belly, right? And you're not seeing the change in your belly. But this is the last place to start burning. Where you have to start looking is in your fine details, and your face starts burning, your feet, your fingers, your hands, all of these from the outside in is how your body burns, because the last is your core. So just keep these things in mind. Don't get discouraged with your workouts. The main thing is consistency. Like anything else in life, you'll hear any trainer tell you consistency is the key. Just keep doing it and have faith that it works.
I think also, just to add to that, is that when you start, most people say, oh, I'm going to the gym. Well, I started a diet, so on and so forth. And no, it's a lifestyle change. You have to be willing to change your lifestyle for this. That means the diet, the way you eat, where you eat at, what you're gonna eat. You know what I mean? How you use food. Food is fuel when you're an athlete. Period. There may be some times when they're out there and they're doing certain things. I just seen a YouTube video last night where Jay Cutler, four-time Mr. Olympia, was saying that he's never eaten Kentucky Fried Chicken. 50 years old, he tried Kentucky Fried Chicken for the first time. You know what I mean? Well, that's exactly what I'm talking about.
After it went to shit.
Right. And that's what they were saying in the comments. Oh my God, you should have tried it during the 90s. Oh my God, Jay, you missed the boat on that one, because he gets there and he's eating. He's like, I'll give it a 4 out of 10. And I'm like, boy, you ain't wrong, boy. It's a 4 out of 10.
Yeah, absolutely, man. You don't miss the crack chicken.
Right. Oh my God. Well, one of the commenters was a dude that worked there in the 90s. And he was like, man, we used to have to make that stuff fresh. You know what I mean? Thaw it all out, make the seasoning, the breading, and all that other stuff, and make it all fresh. It took some time, He said, but now you look in them kitchens, and they ain't got half the equipment they used to have.
No, of course not.
So it's like, dang, you know what I mean? But when you listen to that type of mentality, that's exactly what we're talking about. You know what I mean? You got to say, that new restaurant just came in town. No, I've never been to that place. I wouldn't because I'm on something else right now. You know what I mean? Plus, I feel like commercialized foods, a lot of the stuff that you get from fast food joints, restaurants, stuff like that, loaded with preservatives, loaded with, stuff that we don't know about, so on and so forth. And I think that's where a lot of these problems come from nowadays. I don't want to get into the vaccination talks and all that stuff, like when you're born, and then with the COVID vaccination, all that other stuff. Just know, I never got no COVID shot. I wouldn't get a COVID shot because it didn't make any sense. I had COVID 4 times. You know what I mean? So it's like, now I'm gonna go get a shot for what?
They did that to my daughter, man, and that's how stupid her mom is. Her mom's so gullible and just listens to these people. But my daughter was sick with COVID, so they say it was COVID, but she was sick with whatever it is that they said. And then the doctor tells my daughter that she had to turn around and get the shot. I'm telling my daughter, Cheyenne, you don't have to get the shot. You just had it. You know what I mean? Why did you go get the shot if you just had it? That makes no sense. But thank God, I mean, she from what she told me, that was the only shot she got, was the very first initial one. She got no more after that. And I worry about that, man. And again, this is why you need the father. And this is why the father is supposed to be the authority, right? Because in instances like this, man, it's I don't want to talk about it. I'd like to do that. No, I would like to do that around here. And I'm thinking about that, how I could maybe accomplish that, but creating like a hostility ring. So any of these juveniles or anything, they got these anxieties or these issues, or maybe they have an issue with a kid, they want to settle some. Instead of just fighting it out in an emotional thing, you can come and get in the hostility ring. Put on some gloves, put on some headgear, and duke it out professionally. And then afterwards, you shake hands and we sit down and work the issue out and move about. But they don't have that here. There's nothing for these kids here. That's what I'm saying. That's what I would like to try to create, some kind of community center with Coming Home Coalition, where these kids can get dropped off, and we got volunteers here. We got a whole program going, that they can come hang out. They can come hang out with some returning citizens, with some recovering addicts, things of that nature. They can hear stories. They can, because this is who they relate to.
I think I want to go talk to my gym owner friend and see if I can get some of these troubled kids in there, if we can get them like a discount or whatever else, because they might be impoverished or whatever else, or maybe we could figure it out to where we could maybe foot the bill ourselves. Maybe 1 or 2 of us or a handful of us that go to the gym can just add the cost onto their monthly due. You know what I mean? In order for a child or a kid or whatever else to be able to come to the gym and have peace of mind You know, I think
Yeah,
that
but
would
I
be
don't.
a good idea.
Yeah, but I don't want to support that dude. But if there, hey, if there's any gyms in the Newport Richey, Pasco County, West Pasco County area that would like to participate in something like that, reach out. Reach out to Coming Home Coalition. You can go to www.cominghomecoalition.com and shoot us an email. Maybe we can put something together like that because I do want to do something with these kids. I want to give them something to do. And the gym aspect that is as well. I was actually thinking about putting a prison yard out back, and having them come work out in a prison yard, you know, just throw some dumbbells and some dip bars and stuff out there. And
Shout out to my brother Kendrell Marshall, Block Body Training in Louisiana, New Orleans, Louisiana. That was him and me. He tell you too. That block top workout, boy. Whoo wee.
no, we can really get something like that started. There's nothing here for these kids at all, and that would be a great opportunity for us because, just like with Cameron and his younger brother, uh, for those again that haven't been following me on Facebook and TikTok, I had 20 hours to do with a 16-year-old by the name of Cameron who gets in fights in school and things. Really good kid. But we went out for our first round, and the second round, his younger brother, 13 years old, just wanted to come along because of the change that he saw in his brother instantly just from hanging out with me. So that's the thing is a lot of these kids around here relate to me because I was them. And I get it. I understand. I grew up here in this town too, and nothing's really changed. So they know that I see them.
I think it was better in our day, though. Personally, I think it's a lot worse than it used to be. You know, this area itself used to be back in our day. Port Richey was, where all the rich people lived. Middle
Yeah, they came
class.
and
I should say
retired.
middle class. I should say. You go to Port Richey now, Holiday, even Holiday. You know, back in the day was nice. Look at it now.
Corruption. Corruption. Pasco County is one of the most corrupt counties in the state, So there's just been a lot of corruption. There's been a lot of stealing from the people,
Yep.
not a lot of community support, and it still goes on today. I'm
Yep.
dealing with it trying to build this nonprofit, and the community development person, we sat down with her and she would constantly interrupt me when I'm trying to provide solutions. She would interrupt me. She showed no interest in anything I was doing, and really the whole meeting was a setup so that another individual that was in the vote for us in the running for the opioid money could recuse herself from that vote. She had no other business being in that meeting other than to recuse herself from that vote. So it was a setup meeting the whole time. So, and this is the community development, right? She's head overall community development of Pasco County. So when you have these officials, and then the lead of the opioid task force, the judge, right, the chief judge, same thing, interrupted me, had no interest in what I was doing, had no interest in anything. And then at the opioid task force meeting, he kind of just took over the show and just delegated who he wanted to get money to and this and that. And of course, we saw in the aftermath of that, one of the groups that got $100 and some thousand turned around and bought a brand new Hellcat. There's rumors running around about how these individuals are still on drugs themselves, trying to run a recovery program, and they're getting government funding and they're out here doing drugs and buying cars, So it's knowing that this is why Holiday regressed the way that it did. Port Richey regressed the way that it did. Crime grew so rapidly that it's now out of control.
Oh, even Hernando County too. It's sneaked off into Hernando County too.
Well, it's going to keep spreading outward, and just like you just said the other day, T, you were coming back from work and there was a dead body in the middle of US 19. And that's a common thing. Is these people are just overdosing and committing suicide, and they're just dying on the sidewalk.
Oh, like I told you the other day, man. Me and Melissa were at the store, and I went to walk in the store just to grab something to eat real quick, just a drink and a snack or whatever. and somebody that I used to look up to, standing outside the door on a 20-inch bike. You know, didn't even recognize the dude. He told me who he was, and I was like, damn. He looked like he'd lost at least 80 pounds. Told me he'd been homeless for 6 years, and that he was on meth. I couldn't believe it. Couldn't
Mm-hmm.
believe it. You know what I mean? And I'm just like, man, it makes me wonder because me and my friends were asking about that dude. You know what I mean? Man, I wonder whatever happened to him, man. You know? And then you find out and you're just like, man, see right there. It could happen to anybody, man. It could happen to anybody. And it's just like, and where's the help at? Because it just seems like it's a growing problem around here. When I was
Rapidly.
growing up, how many homeless people did you know of around here? You know what I'm saying?
That's the thing. It's like when we were kids, these were inner city problems. These were problems
Right.
that we heard of the inner city, and then now it's in suburbia, and it's just going to keep branching out, and that's by design, you know, and the same occurrence. Me being out at the church, and working with the addicted out there in the Shady Hills area, and I ran across a lady where I asked her, in the midst of a conversation, I'd asked her what her age was, and I guessed around mid 60s. We went to high school together. I'm 48. So it's knowing how just how that addiction cannibalized them in such a fashion to where it just withered them away to where they're almost nothing. They're on the brink of death. And then of course my guilt in that was knowing that how much did I partake in that? How much of those drugs that affected her body was from me through the years, me injecting into this county. So, this is why I get into a lot of the work that I do, and I'm trying to build what I can build just to try to repair a lot of the damage that I did, and that's the thing is I try to remain privately funded for that. I don't want to work up under these county people. I want to work with them. I've extended my hand. I've sat with all of these people, right? I've sat with the head of corrections. I've sat with, I've sat with all the leaders, all the decision makers. Have any of them reached out to me? No. I've sent out emails. I'm connected to them on LinkedIn. None of them respond, None of them do, and they won't.
Of course they're not going to. And that's exactly the reason why you did what you did. Okay, this is who I am. This is what I'm here for. And now it's time to make your presence known. You know what I mean? It won't matter about all of them, right? Because they one day they will. Guaranteed that.
Well, I did what I set out to do, T. Right? When I first created this nonprofit, I was in Pasco County, and I reached out on Twitter to Sheriff Nako's Twitter handle. And I explained to him in a DM, right? Hey, Sheriff Nako, this is Coming Home Coalition. This is who I was. This is who I am now. And this is what I'd love to work with and build in Pasco County. He thumbs down the message, right? So I was like, well, bump this. I'm going to take it off to Tampa then. I'm going to go off into Hillsborough, always knowing that I was going to come back to Pasco. But what my fear was, T, is that because I know Pasco, I've seen it with my own eyes, right? And with the record that I have, it would be nothing for a cop to pull me over, throw some dope in my car, and guess what's going to happen to me, right? Who's going to believe me over a cop? So it's knowing that could potentially happen at any time. And I knew that I had no security behind that. But so I went into Tampa, built my podcast, built my following, and now I'm 100,000 strong. I'm linked with national organizations. I got organizations from here all the way up to Michigan that know who I am and stand behind me. And I now know that if anything was like that was to happen, man, this place would be flooded. Because they would know, no, not Thomas. We already knew this was going to happen, Yeah. So now it's I come in with my followers. This is how important we the people are. And this is what I'm trying to build through my platform. That, you know, for these listeners to understand the importance of their duty as we the people. That I am just an American citizen, and albeit a returning citizen, but I care about my community. And I want to come out and I want to try to right my wrongs. And I just want to help people. And I just want to die doing that. I've had all of that fun stuff and that corruption, and I know what comes with that. I don't want that stuff no more. It's why I say I could never be a millionaire, because I feed too many people. You understand what I'm saying? So it's knowing that we the people of the community, I need you guys to stand behind me by subscribing to my website, by sharing my content, by getting me out there, by helping me grow, so that we can all attack these issues as a force, as a united force. I always go back to what happened in Colorado, man. Look how them truckers stood up for that dude, man, for that Spanish dude that they gave 110 years to because the brakes failed on that dump truck. Or whatever rig he was driving that ended up killing all those people. And they ended up giving that Spanish dude 110 years. And all of those truckers stopped delivering to Colorado. They laid down. Not near truck went into Colorado. And what did they do? They came and fixed that man's sentence and gave him 10 years. Right? So it's that shows you what the power of the people can do when they unite and show that, man, listen, at the end of the day, we are the boss and we will shut this bitch down. Right? Because we stand for justice. And at the end of the day, right is right and wrong is wrong. Now, I'm an American citizen that's out here that commits no crimes. I help people. See, you've been with me for 3 months on a daily basis. You're out here. You see what I do. You see my care for people. Right? So it's knowing that that's the importance of this platform, is that if we are going to take down this structure, if we are going to check Big Brother and put them back in their place of where they're supposed to be, we have to do it as a united team. And when we see American citizens that are moving in that fashion, we have to stand behind them and we have to protect them. We have to protect them. You know, another reason why my platform is here is for any American citizen who feels like their voice is not being heard. They can contact me. Hey, I need help. Come to my Facebook, come to my Twitter. Let's do it. I do this all the time. Let's bring awareness to what you got going on. Let's try to get some citizens behind you. Let's try to get a movement over there. This is how we got to work, people.
Well, see, what it is most people are reluctant because they don't want to get caught holding the bag. You know, you're a convict. You know, a lot of times they don't want to stand behind you, you know, because they're afraid that, just like you said, something can happen and next thing you know, this is all gone, you know, because somebody didn't like it, because somebody wanted to get rid of you, you know. It was better the other way. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And that goes twofold, you know, and again, but it all falls behind this materialistic crap. You know, you have individuals that are scared to stand up because they're scared of losing this materialistic shit. So they won't stand up for what's right, and they'll turn a blind eye to it because they don't want to create waves, because they like what they got going on and they don't want to lose that. So they'll allow a man to be beat to death right in front of them.
Yep. Because it ain't their problem.
You know, and they try to keep that problem away from them. And then you have other individuals that'll capitalize off that problem. But it all stems from the same ego, the same selfishness. And that's what we have to step out of, because America indoctrinated us that way, you know, to turn a blind eye and to look away and just appreciate what you have, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yep, coveting, yep.
Yep, coveting. And that's what allows you to step over the homeless person without a thought about it, you know.
Yep. And not even understand what that person's been through. You know what I mean? To where he got in that situation in the first place. Do you think that if anybody would have been there to support that person when they were going through what they were going through, they'd be where they're at? Excluding drugs? I say excluding drugs because I've been on drugs. You know what I mean? And I was really bad on drugs. And at any point, like
Well,
nobody.
you have to exclude drugs because the percentage excludes itself from the drugs, right? And
Mhm.
this what people don't understand is that there's a high you homeless people do not become addicted, and this isn't for all, but this is what the percentage shows, that there's a higher percentage of addiction after homelessness, not the
Right,
addiction that makes them homeless. It's the
right,
fact that they've become homeless from the economical pressures, and
right.
and then they become addicted to deal with the fact that these people got to dig through garbage cans and eat who knows what, man, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
yeah.
you're exactly right. Where was the help that the people needed? Where was the help in downtown Tampa when they wanted to restructure and they jacked up the prices of all the rent to force out the poor people into the streets so that then they can then turn around and sell all these houses to your rich European people who wants to turn them into Airbnbs because they're restructuring all downtown Tampa, right?
Same thing they just did in Hawaii.
So where's the help? Yeah. Oh, I forgot. They got $700 per family.
Right,
But the
right.
president of Zelensky's got two yachts, two super yachts,
Super yachts. Right.
super yachts.
But that's where the rest of their money went.
Belly dancer. Boy, I tell you, man, how the hell you go from a belly dancer to the president of a country that has two super yachts? You ever seen that clip of him belly dancing with his leotard?
I don't want to see that clip, bro.
He was, he was pretty good, man. I tell you, boy,
He's got some moves
he's got some
like
moves,
Jagger.
but
You got the moves like Jagger.
got the moves like Jagger.
Oh shit.
So let's get into what we're really here for, man. If you guys watched the last episode, y'all know Tony here is in the Inside Out program, and got a lot of good things going for him. And another opportunity arose for a job that he was seeking for several years. You have to apply for it every 6 months, but it arose. Um, and this is how life works, right? Life just works this way, man. Life will deliver sometimes things when you least expect it, and just ill prepared for it, you know. And we have to understand that, and not every opportunity you can grasp, right? So Tony did fail his urinalysis, his UA. It was the chance that we took. We knew it was a 50-50. We went with the water dilution. I
Mm-hmm.
still I still feel like, because Tony said that, you know, there was just, it was slight dilution, slight yellow in there, and that's what worried me, because that shit has to be clear. It has to be water. And I think maybe
Well,
that,
I'd been peeing probably every 10 minutes for probably about 2 hours at that point. So, I felt good about it. But people got to realize that, I'm on probation. You know what I mean? I just don't have any avenue. I mean, yeah, sure, I could have went and did the fake pee thing and nobody probably would have ever known about it. But on the off chance, because I have a medical card, you know,
yeah.
and
Well, just to clarify for the listener, on probation here, you are allowed, as long as you have your medical card, they permit you to smoke marijuana.
right. And now the other part to that is I know a lot of people might hear this and be like, well, why is he smoking marijuana while he's on probation? Well, let's go back to why I was a drug addict. I was injured on the job when I was 20 years old, right? I don't always have uh, problems with pain or whatever else, a chronic, really bad to where it lays me down for days or even weeks. But it does happen. I refuse to take any type of narcotics for it. Um, Normally, I won't even take ibuprofen. Marijuana seems to do the trick for me most of the time. Um, I haven't had any real issues or anything like that since I went that way. instead of going with the pharmaceuticals. And I'm happy with that. You know, if and for me, to tell you truthfully, if that means that certain things are out of reach for me because of that, I'm okay with that. You know what I mean? Because the way I look at it is yeah, okay, I could go and I could go to the doctor and I could get narcotics, and you people will let me work there every day of the week and never have a problem, you know. But if I go smoke marijuana, it's no, even if I have a card, even if it's legal. Why? Because, oh well, it's still illegal in the federal government.
Right.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm gonna keep doing me, and y'all keep doing you. However, I will tell you this. Um, they said that they were gonna try to see if I could still get the job, if maybe I could retest sooner than 6 months. Um, Given the opportunity, yeah, I would take it more serious next time. You know what I mean? And I would just quit because it's not like I said, I don't have um, bad enough pain to where I couldn't go without for a few weeks or whatever else in order to get a job. Of course, I only had like 3 days worth of knowledge before I had to go take a drug test. You know what I mean? On this, in this particular situation. And I just felt like I didn't have a whole lot of avenues to go down, considering that I'm on probation. You know what I mean? But I was still going to try. So
Well,
on the
and I
off
mean,
chance,
and that's the thing, like for me, in that situation, it was an opportunity. I took it, and it didn't pan through, and I move on. Will I
mm-hmm.
retest? And if they came back to me, I probably wouldn't. It just all depends on where my life is in that moment. But I'm not gonna wait on it. If they're not willing to overcome something as silly as that. I understand rules, I understand regulations, but again, this is a private industry, and I understand, maybe some work sites you may not be able to go on insurance wise because of the federal standard of it. So I mean, it's all of these stupid ass loopholes.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing of it is, as a human being with logical sense, you sit back and really it's all behind money.
Right.
And that's where the frustration comes in because you know it's all behind money. It hinders work progress. It hinders so much, you know, because like you say, you're exactly 100%. You would not have any problem if I had a pharmaceutical prescription.
Right. Yeah. First
The,
thing they told me yesterday when the drug test people called me. Now, first of all, they sent this thing to the lab. I just want to caveat that first and foremost. Like they sent this thing to the lab. Why? I have no idea. This is a pre-job 5-panel drug test. You know what I mean? You should have known what time it was as soon as you seen it, but you sent it off to a lab. So what that tells me is that my levels were probably very low. You know what I'm saying? Probably low enough where it didn't show. And what I think happened is I think the guy that was taking the test seen my marijuana card in my wallet when I put my ID back in my wallet, and he went ahead and said, "Oh, we gonna," you know what I mean? He come up clean now. There ain't no way. And he went ahead and sent it off to the next people and see. And that's what I'm talking about. You got people out here getting in other people's businesses for no fucking reason. You know what I mean? It don't matter. Maybe that card's old. Maybe I'm just a pack rat.
no,
You know
yeah,
what I
but
mean?
no, but you can't. I mean,
I know.
you can never blame somebody for doing the right thing. I mean, this is a person who's doing his job. He understands that his job in that moment is to detect any kind of drug use. So you know, that's for me, T. That's on you. You should have thought beforehand, man. Let me hide this card to make sure these motherfuckers don't see this
Well,
marijuana card, whatever.
again, you're absolutely 1000% right. I'm not going to sit there and blame nobody for doing the right thing. I probably would have did the same thing. You know what I mean? Given the situation, you know what I mean? I might not have said anything. I might have said something to him. I might have said something to him like, I see that marijuana card you got, you know, whatever. And it might have been like a warning, like you get sometimes when you get pulled over by the cops. I would have been like, listen, man, you know what I mean? You might not want to bring that with you when you go to a drug test. You know what I mean? But I'm gonna let you slide this time. But you know, that's probably how I would have did it. But that's not everybody, and I understand that, and that's cool. The other part of it is like you said, this might not be for me. I might get there and hate it. You know what I mean? Even though I've been seeking this thing, it might not be for me. I'm a big, big believer that God only puts you in opportunities that are for you. You know what I mean? At
Well,
the time, they're for you. You know?
that's exactly right. And let's break that down, right? Because after you went first, let's talk about the anxiety of the test, right? So let's break this down for the people to understand the difference between right and wrong, essentially,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I mean, we had two options. You could have just quit cold turkey, which of course it takes 30 days for marijuana to get out of your system, right? So the test, you had to take the test within, I think, 3 days or 4 days. So
Mm-hmm.
so we knew that marijuana was going to be in your system.
Mm-hmm.
So quitting at that time would have reduced the levels, sure, maybe slightly, right? But it was more, again, going into the purpose of why we have marijuana cards to begin with, right? And just like how you described me as well, I have a marijuana card, and I'm 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 ADHD severely. Like I used to collect Social Security for this. And that added to some of my laziness back in the day as a kid. But I was bad, uncontrollable. And I've been on this Prozac, I've been on all this other stuff. I was on Ritalin as a kid, and it's knowing that nothing helped. And it really made me, a lot of that stuff in some sense gave me suicidal thoughts, made me start feeling crazy. Marijuana is the only thing that pacifies me throughout the day to be able to focus on what I need to focus on, do what I need to do, concentrate on what I need to concentrate on. And I need this daily. And not only that, but yes, I'm addicted to marijuana now in the sense that I have a certain level that I have to maintain, or that will affect me in some sense. So it's understanding that right there coming into your choice factor. Like, I can't just stop cold turkey. Not that I can't, but there's effects to that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it's knowing that these 3 days really isn't going to make a difference. I know I'm going to have to dilute my piss in some kind of way. So why am I going to stop smoking? Right. And that was the choice of the continue on smoking into the piss test. And then as far as the choice of the fake pee, which you were getting mixed comments on that. Like, you put a lot of time and research into this. It's not like you were just saying, whatever, I'll handle it or whatever. Like, you were doing everything that you could do, that you knew how to do, on this spur of the moment thing,
Right.
right?
I hadn't taken it, like I said before, I hadn't taken a drug test like this in a while. Like I take a drug test at probation every once in a while, but I'm allowed to come up dirty for marijuana because I have a card. They don't have a problem with that. You know what I mean? But for the job to be like, for me, it's like, okay, so doesn't that violate HIPAA? Because I'm on something that's prescribed to me by a doctor, by a state recognized doctor, and probably a government recognized doctor, if that's what they got to get. I don't know. I don't know what doctors have to have licensing wise or whatever. If that's a state thing, a government thing, whatever it may be. I'm sure there's a government register, but it's probably on the state level, or maybe it's just on the state level. Whatever it may be, you know, this place operates within the state. So it's like, was it a missed opportunity? It could have been, but like you say, and I'm a firm believer in myself is, what, that may have been a wonderful opportunity. You know what I'm saying? But who's to say that there isn't an even better one tomorrow?
There's opportunities everywhere, but I'm laying out the anxiety and the stress on a human being for just smoking marijuana on a
Right.
daily function, right? And how that could really affect an individual's mental health, their poverty level, all of these things. So it's understanding that this day of the test, right, coming down to that choice of the either or,
Right.
it's I was with you that morning. So it's that whole anxiety of that morning, that feeling of I need to pass this test because of the opportunity that you outlined, right?
Right.
This is a life-changing opportunity. And you can only do what you can do to the best of your ability to try to achieve this opportunity. This is the message to the listener, you know, that may get discouraged if they don't get a job that they wanted or things of this nature. It's understanding life and the energy and the karmic value of things and how it all yings and yangs, you know.
Hmm.
But specifically talking about the marijuana and the pressure and choices that are put upon you, right? So then now you go, you take this piss test, you've been drinking water all morning, so the stress to your body,
Right.
you know what I mean, that of taking in this large intake of water and having to funnel through and dilute your piss. And the
Hmm.
reason why we took that option is because, again, we were getting so many mixed reviews on the fake piss. We didn't know what to expect walking into the UA. We didn't even know if we'd be able to carry this thing in, which you can outline, your process that you went through going in to take the UA, and if it was even possible to use the fake pee.
Oh yeah. Well, when you walk in first, as far as I know, with the fake pee, you're supposed to heat it up for like 10 seconds, and then it's got like a jacket or like a cover that the bottle comes in. And so the only way that really you're going to get it back there is if you basically jock it, strap it somewhere on the inside of your leg. And I mean, the thing is that's going to have to keep it warm too. So first things first is they didn't even open until 9 o'clock, and I was there at 8:30. So I'm already sitting there for half an hour. And then when I walk in, they have me sitting there for another half an hour. And then when I walk in the back, I got to take all my stuff out of my pockets and I got to throw it in a lockbox. They give me a key for that. They walk me down the hall into a bathroom and they time me. I got 4 minutes to do whatever I'm doing. You know what I mean? And then the first thing he did when he walked in was he checked the temperature of it. Well, it was like 40 degrees that day. You know what I mean? So it's like the entire time I'm going through all this, I'm sitting here and I'm like, man, it's a good thing. I went this way with it because now, I whether I fail or I passed in that moment, I felt good about the choice that I made because of what I would have had to go through in order to make the other thing happen. You know what I mean? And not ever going that way. You know what I'm saying? So I basically I felt like I had as much chance using the fake urine as I did peeing myself, except I wouldn't have to carry all this extra stuff. I wouldn't have to
Right.
do all these other precautions. You know what I'm saying? So that's where my mind was at. And people can be mad at me if they want to. People can sit out there and be like, "Hey man, I would have did that anyways." It's, okay. Well, guess what?
You wasn't the one in the room.
You say what you want to say 600 miles away.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You went in the room shaking like Don Knotts. You know what I mean? So
Pretty much, yeah.
and then the whole thing of it is again just the anxiety of you just pissing, but then you're adding the elements of sneaking things in and having to unpack things, and
Right. And not
so
getting caught. You know what I'm saying? Being on probation at the same time. Could you imagine? That's the whole thing's going through my mind. Oh, he got caught with fake pee for a drug test, for a job or whatever, and he's on probation. Oh
yeah.
boy.
So you took it. We left. We thought we were going to hear something within 30 minutes. Found
Mm-hmm.
out 30 minutes later we wouldn't hear something till maybe that night or possibly the next day, right?
Yep. And they sent it off to the lab because the lab is the one that the lab was in like Kansas or something like that.
Mm.
You know what I mean? So they called me yesterday. And that's why I was sitting there like,
Mm.
why? Why? Somebody's being extra around here. You know what I'm saying?
But that right there is because it wasn't meant for you.
Right. Right. And that's exactly what I'm saying. And I also want to say on the side, I am employed. For everybody out there that wants to know, I am employed. You know what I mean? This opportunity would have been a couple dollars more an hour, and it would have had better benefits attached to it or whatever else. But I am employed, so
Which the DC trip is another opportunity of him
right.
joining into the bricklayers union. So that opportunity is still there as well. The only reason why that is not on the table right in this moment, because one, the probation stopped reaching out to me for collaboration and working with trying to get Tony there, which again, one of the aspects of probation, people, is that probation cannot hinder your progress. It cannot get in the way of you progressing in your work field. Now, of course, there are rules and guidelines, but probation has to work with you as much as possible to make this happen. And the reason why this probation officer is saying that Tony would not be able to go to Washington, D.C. to enter into his apprenticeship program is because Tony would then have to come back every 30 days to renew this pass. They only give him a 30-day pass, and he would have to do it in person via Zoom or anything modern. So it's knowing that there's that, and then Tony still has his weekly diversion classes, which will end here shortly. So he's really getting ready to wrap up the classes, and then we can maybe take a look at getting him to DC at that time by eclipsing his probation, because he's almost done with his probation. So that is an option in itself as well. But
True.
You, Tony, hit it right on the head. It's listener, it's about just taking a step back, looking again from a bird's eye view as to what happened, why it didn't go your way, things of that nature, and knowing that this opportunity just wasn't for you doesn't mean that another one won't come. You created this opportunity. So it's knowing that you create the opportunities, and some you win, some you don't. You just keep it pushing. That's why I said now, if they were to come back and be like, hey man, you want to take another piss test? I'm like, nah, I don't want to go through all that again, man. You want to hire me? Hire me. I'll come work tomorrow, but I'm not going to go through all that again.
Well, I mean, there's really no way around it. I got a card. You know what I mean? Legally, I can do it. So it's like basically them hiring me, basically them telling me, hey, we know that you're fudging the test, but that's okay. You know what I mean? So that's really what it comes down to right now. It's like it's their integrity at this point.
Yeah.
Because the fact is I could quit smoking weed tomorrow, but are they going to believe that? You know what I'm saying? Or is it going to be more, you know what I'm saying? They have a choice to make in that situation too, because it's like, well, I didn't lie. I told you I had a card. I went down there. It came up positive for me. I told you why I take it, so on and so forth. That doesn't mean I'm going to be inebriated on the job. That just means I use it for what I use it for, period.
Right. I mean, that's the ridiculousness of it. I mean, whatever. Anyway, but great points. A lot of great points on health, mental health. We really broke down the UA process and the ridiculousness of it between all of these marijuana laws going on and the crux with businesses and a lot of things. It's just stupid. And it's like, make a decision, let's do it, get it over with. But it's all about money as always,
Always about money, yep.
But at the end of the day, like Tony said it at the top, about the creation of opportunities, seizing them, and not being scared to apply for them. It's okay to take rejection. It's okay to take failure. And these are parts of life that you have to overcome as well, and embrace it and move on to the next thing, knowing that you can create the next just like the last. That goes into a lot of our talks about, minimizing expectations. You have a job opportunity, but don't structure the whole rest of your life behind this opportunity before you even get it. Don't put expectations and don't spend your money before it's in your hand. You know, as the old saying goes, just allow things to be, allow them to come, and baby steps, man. So that's a lot of what the program is, and we'll see what's next, man. But other than that, you guys take care, stay safe, stay blessed. Thank you guys again for tuning in to another wonderful program. And please, again, visit www.cominghomecoalition.com. And we'll see you next week, man.
Peace out.
Peace.